The next big case in front of the Supreme Court is out of Colorado, and it has the chance to change religious liberty and discrimination law in America. Colorado Mill Small gets a visit from the feds, the helper feds, not the you're in trouble feds. A runaway boat runs ashore in Florida, leaving a trail back to Colorado, and a man's missing pants. Crossing Colfax, taking your life in your hands. And trouble at the Unicorn Festival, where the unicorns are fake, but the struggle is real. Next. The coming key case of the Supreme Court comes out of Colorado, and it perfectly captures the spirit of our political times. Not only do the two sides disagree, they even disagree on what they are disagreeing about. It's the long-running case of the baker in Lakewood who refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. It's either a religious liberty and a free speech case, or it's a civil rights and it's a discrimination case. Here's our Anastasia Bolton.
When I create that cake or whatever, I'm participating in that event.
As an artist and a religious man, Jack Phillips of Masterpiece Cake Shop says he has rights and standards.
I don't make cakes for Halloween. I don't make cakes for bachelor parties. I wouldn't make an anti-American cake, a cake promoting racism.
In 2012, Phillips refused to make a wedding cake for David Mullins and Charlie Craig. He has nothing against them, he says.
I have friends that are gay. That would be ridiculous. This is an event that goes against my faith.
To Jack and his attorney, this isn't a discrimination case. It's a matter of religious freedom and the First Amendment.
Just because he opened a business doesn't mean that he divests himself of those cherished beliefs.
Religious freedom doesn't give you the right to discriminate when you operate a business.
That sums up the other side. ACLU has been fighting on David and Charlie's behalf. Now the U.S. Supreme Court will weigh in.
The issue relies on whether one can rely on one's religious beliefs as a license to exempt yourself from laws that apply to everyone else. And I think the answer to that has to be no.
As always, what the court decides has broad implications. Jack knows it. David and Charlie know it.
No one grows up and as a kid thinks that one day they find themselves before the Supreme Court justices with a case that could have huge impact to their community. So we are both honored and overwhelmed just to be in the position we are.
Everyone will have to wait a while for that impact moment. The case will be on the court's schedule when the court decides to put it there. For Next, I'm Anastasia Bolton.
Today I spoke with legal minds from the left and right who agree that it's likely that Colorado's Neil Gorsuch, the newest justice on the court, encouraged his fellow justices to take this case. And they also agree that he's likely to side with the baker.
You know, if you look at how cruel some of his other rulings were in other cases and his eagerness to carve out religious liberty in the Hobby Lobby case, it's not a surprise that he would be willing to do the same thing to allow discrimination against same-sex couples. So definitely not a surprise here.
He believes in judicial restraint, that he doesn't believe that it's the avenue and the forum of the court to decide outcome-based winners. It's, as we just talked about, the textualist idea and the originalist idea is looking at the text of the law and the text of the Constitution and fairly and justly applying it. So if he does the same with the First Amendment, and if he encourages the other justices to do so, I think we'll see a win in Masterpiece Bakery.
Is the other justices. Jen Ellis from Colorado Christian University is hinting that Gorsuch might have some sway with his mentor, Justice Anthony Kennedy, who all agree is likely to be the swing vote in this case. Colfax is Denver's signature strip, and it was built for cars, not for people walking around. Just try crossing Colfax. Our Steve Steger tried.
On a street known for its hustling, rush hour has a different meaning for those on 2 feet.
And it's scary. You don't want to get hit.
Livonia will tell you rush hour is all 24 on Colfax.
They're so far in between.
So far in between. The distance between marked crosswalks or the distance between curbs.
Right here, we're crossing 4 lanes of traffic, 1 lane of left turns, and 2 lanes of parking. So that's 7 lanes. That's basically 70 feet that we're crossing to get to the side.
We'll get closer to Frank Locantori and introduce you in just a minute. But first, a few numbers. It's estimated about 20,000 cars travel in this stretch of Colfax each day. 75,000 people live within a 10-minute walk of Colfax in Denver. And DPD says 4 pedestrians lost their lives in crashes here in 2015 and 2016. and none of them were at fault.
And you have destinations on each side of the street that people want to get to, but not a safe way to cross, and people are going to naturally take the easiest way in order to make that crossing.
That concerns Frank and the folks he represents, the businesses along Colfax trying to draw in foot traffic.
There's a lot of factors that make it difficult for pedestrians on Colfax.
Frank is the leader of the Colfax Business Improvement District, one of 4 districts along Colfax pushing the city for funds through bonds.
What we're asking for is $20 million for 8 miles of Colfax.
The money would help build sidewalk bulbs in parking lanes at intersections to give pedestrians a little less road to cross. It would also build median refuge for pedestrians if they aren't mobile enough to make it across the street before the light changes. City leaders will have to weigh in on the funding and then take it to voters in the fall, but perhaps down the road, it might help people like Livonia.
I mean, what are we supposed to do? Walk around the whole block before we get to a crosswalk?
On a street known for hustling, it could mean one fewer definition of the word. For Next, I'm Steve Staker.
This is all part of a new round of bond-funded projects the voters will be asked to approve in November. The Colfax businesses want the mayor and the city council to increase the proposal amount from $6 to $20 million. There is hopefully help coming for small business owners trapped inside the Colorado Mills Mall, which still has not announced when the hail damage will be repaired to the point that it can reopen. November is still all we've heard. Help comes in the form of the man in the blue shirt. He works for the Federal Small Business Administration. He's been touring areas damaged by that hailstorm on May 4th, including this mobile home park in Jefferson County. The feds, along with Colorado's Office of Emergency Management, are trying to determine if there are losses not covered by insurance that should be eligible for low-interest loans. Last month, the owner of the Colorado Mills candy store and 2 other kiosks told us that his products weren't covered by insurance. They're big losses for him. Last week, he was told to fill out paperwork detailing his income and his expenses to see if he might qualify for one of those government loans. Hey, out at the Mills, the busted Target is looking less busted. The lights are back on. Most of the ceiling tiles have been replaced. It's a long way from that scene that looked like something out of The Walking Dead when we were there last month. Our next question came in from a couple of viewers, including Ron and Mary Lee, who asked, can you find out what the many dirt ramps recently constructed on C-470 are for? Yeah, let's show you one of these. These are dirt ramps for wildlife, deer mainly. CDOT added 15 of them during a resurfacing project on C-470 last year. The long stretches of fencing are supposed to keep the deer out, and the dirt ramps help them escape if they end up trapped along the highway. This next story involves an abandoned boat from Colorado and panic on the beach at Daytona, and a man who drank heavily and woke up without his pants. Perhaps it'll be the start of a new segment on Next. We'll call it The Most Florida Thing We Saw Today. The boat roared ashore at Daytona, just plowed into the beach with no one on board.
The boat was still running. The motor was kicking up water.
The Ethel Jean, registered out of Cherry Hills Village, Colorado. It's owned by a businessman named Sam Kaufman. But Sam was apparently back home in Colorado.
Communications, Gearing. There appears to have been either a burglary or a vandalization on one of our boats in our boatyard.
The Ethel Jean was in for repairs when a burglar struck. A burglar fueled by liquid courage.
So there's a bunch of liquor bottles that are half full.
Jonathan Race told deputies the last thing he remembers is drinking 4 Locos at the 7-Eleven across from the marina. He says he doesn't remember stealing the Ethel Jean, driving it out by the beach, jumping or falling overboard before it ran aground. He also didn't remember leaving his pants on board, complete with his wallet. That's how they found him. Mr. Race says he just remembers waking up on the beach in another man's pants and then walking home after another wild night in Florida. I was unable to reach Sam Kaufman in Cherry Hills Village by phone today to discuss the theft of his boat and apparently also the theft of a pair of pants kept on board. That suspect is facing charges of burglary and grand theft of a motor vehicle. Apparently, Florida law does not differentiate between grand theft auto and grand theft boat. You know your lazy neighbor who won't pick up his dog's poop? There's a psychological explanation. People who paid money for something called a unicorn festival feel like they were deceived. All right. And Elk Creek campgrounds might need to consider a name change unless it leaves. Next. All right, forget Florida. The most Colorado thing we saw today is the visitor to Campsite 41 at Elk Creek Campground in Grand Lake. It is called Elk Creek, but it does not discriminate against moose. Christy Patrick snapped this photo from next door at Campsite 42, where everyone waited to pack up until the new neighbor moved along.
And what a great time of year to go camping. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. And after a weekend with cooler than average temperatures, time to turn up the heat. It's summer, after all. Blue skies in Denver today, temperatures in the upper 80s, not in record territory, but plenty warm. And heading into the next couple of days, we'll look for highs back in the 90s. We saw those out across the western slope and eastern plains today. And currently at the airport, 87 degrees, the humidity running about 18%. Severe weather threat growing out on the far eastern plains. A funnel cloud spotted along with 2-inch diameter hail. We'll have high pressure set up for tomorrow, basically a warm, dry day with only isolated high base thunderstorms expected during the late afternoon time period. And so not much rain coming in, perhaps a little bit of fog out on the far eastern plains late tonight and early tomorrow. And so speaking of tonight in the metro area, we'll call for forecast lows in the mid 50s with high temperatures tomorrow back in the mid 90s here. Triple-digit highs are coming on Wednesday, Kyle.
Thanks. Every parent will eventually have to teach their children how to grieve. But those lessons are occasionally offered the other way around. Our Victoria Sanchez shows us how a young man has dealt with the accidental shooting of his friend in Jefferson County last year.
Maybe I can try to play my new song.
Learning to play the piano is all about figuring out where your hands go, what keys to press, and persistence. But most of all,
A's right here and then D's right here.
Knowing where to turn for guidance.
The reason I think she helped me is because she's my mom. She loves me.
Joshua Ebeling isn't talking about getting through a song, but navigating life. One thing he wanted to figure out on his own, how a 15-year-old grieves.
I've always been hurting. I'm still hurting from this. It's just like a strike to the heart.
Joshua's friend, Nathaniel Griego, was accidentally shot and killed at Christmas time last year.
I'm gonna miss him, yes.
He struggled to find a way to cope.
He's a very good guy, very good friend.
He knew he wanted to help his friend's family, so he started to raise money.
So this poster right here says soar high.
Something his mom Lisa thought would last a few weeks.
Especially teenage boy, you start with an idea, and I just can't believe he followed through with it, you know, and just kept on and kept on and kept working on it.
Garage sales, snow cone stands, donating his birthday cash. He even created hats and clothing in memory of the 14-year-old.
This took from December till now.
Teenage persistence, with help from mom, helped raise $2,000 for Nathaniel's mother.
She was in tears and she was very happy.
Joshua knows he couldn't have done it on his own.
Thank you, Mom.
Joshua's mom says she's tried to teach him to be a good person, kind and loving.
It meant a lot to me.
A moment like this, proof she's done her job.
I've got you.
For Next, I'm Victoria Sanchez.
Students at Dakota Ridge continue to wear the sweatshirts and the hats and the shirts that Joshua made, and all the extras were given to the Griego family along with the check. Dr. Max has the psychological scoop on those who refuse to do their duty when dogs do theirs. A magical day full of unicorns and mermaids and angry crowds in Jefferson County. Uh-oh, that's next.
Don't say I never take you to nice places. Welcome to my apartment yard.
And this is a beautiful yard.
It is. And the perfect excuse to bring you to the apartment yard is right here.
Yeah, not quite so beautiful down here.
Bags of dog poop that are just piled up because apparently owners think bagging it and putting it here is better than tossing it in the dumpster.
Steve, you're living like an animal. This is, you might as well live in a frat house.
So we've gotten a bunch of questions from people about these dog parks that have closed because people don't pick up after their dogs. Is there psychology in not picking up after your dog?
Well, you know, yes and no. I mean, it's a gross thing. You know, you don't want to pick up poop. I mean, especially like big dogs. That's like human-sized poop that you're having to pick up and carry with you. Like, of course, nobody is going to want to do that. You have to be a responsible dog owner and do it though. And it's very easy to commit to doing something in the future that's unpleasant as opposed to committing to doing it now. So like in this case, you know, I'm going to pick up the poop, I'm going to bag it, I'm going to throw it down here. The next time I go out to my car, I'll throw it in the dumpster. easy to make that commitment, and then the time comes, you're like, oh, well, that's gross, I'm in a hurry, I'm going to do it later. And you just never get around to it.
So it's almost a matter of procrastination. There's no bad intention here. Or is there?
I don't know. The person may be evil. They may be playing a trick on you. I don't know what's happening.
I think a lot of people out there would say they are. I mean, come on. Just leaving it here?
I have a feeling it's good intentions gone awry.
All right. Dr. Max Wachtel, you want to pick any of this stuff up, or are we good?
I'm going to leave it there.
We'll leave it for someone else.
We'll leave it for somebody else.
People who went to something called a unicorn festival in Jefferson County over the weekend are claiming they didn't get what was promised. They totally get that the unicorns are just horses wearing fake horns. They also understand that some of the mermaids just kind of looked like ladies wearing mermaid tails. No, they were primarily concerned about long lines and paying for activities that they never got to do. The organizer admits this first ever unicorn festival was overwhelmed by more people than they expected.
We are going to address all of those for next year. We're going to scale it way up. We're going to have more food trucks, more attractions. We're going to simplify the ticketing process.
More unicorns. Unicorn Festival folks have been offering apologies and refunds throughout the day. Next, do you make a point of buying American? Tell me with the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter, and then I'll show you something I found next. It's a sign that made in the USA may not mean what it used to. So I was literally knee-deep in a sprinkler project over the weekend when I ran out for some spare parts and bought this part, which was clearly made in Canada, but has a made in the USA sticker. So I'm thinking maybe just the sticker was American made? I don't know. Let's just hope that I put the sprinkler together the right way. If you see a sign that makes you do a double take, next at 9news.com is our email address, or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. We finish, as always, with your feedback, lots of it, on this case going to the Supreme Court, the Colorado baker who wouldn't make a wedding cake for a gay couple. Gary writes, wouldn't it be the same as going into a Jewish deli and demanding a ham and bacon sandwich? Well, yes, Gary, it would be exactly the same if that Jewish deli regularly sold ham and bacon sandwiches, but not to gay people. I hope that makes sense. We'll see you next time.